I didn't expect to be the favorite. I just wanted to be seen. I'm Lauren, 39 now, but this part of my life started long before I had any sense of worth. Growing up in my family felt like standing in a room full of mirrors where no one ever looked in my direction. My parents were the kind that praised hard work, as long as it came from my older brother, Marcus. Me? I was sweet but aimless, the one who helped out in the kitchen, while Marcus got to talk about stocks and law school at the dinner table. To them, I wasn't ambitious. I didn't wear a blazer or carry a briefcase. I didn't talk loud or make people listen. I just cooked. I found comfort in chopping onions, in the smell of rosemary and garlic, in the silence of a stove warming up. But they never asked why I loved it. Never saw the skill in it. They thought I was just playing house in the kitchen while waiting for a man to marry me. When I started my own catering business in my early 30s, I didn't make a big announcement. I wasn't trying to prove anything. I was just trying to make a living doing something I loved. It grew slowly, then steadily. Baby showers, retirement parties, small weddings. I built it brick by brick. Quietly, privately. Because part of me already knew they wouldn't care. And I was right. The last time we were all together, Marcus had just bought a lake house. He made a speech in front of the whole family about working hard and knowing your value. He toasted with champagne while our dad clapped him on the back like he'd just won a war. I offered to refill glasses and got asked if I was doing waitressing on the side again. I laughed it off. That's what I always did. But something cracked inside me that day. Then came the invitation. Marcus and his wife were planning their 20th anniversary party. Full-blown catered dinner, live music, string lights over their backyard pool, the works. And guess who they thought of immediately to cater it? "We'd love to support your little business," his wife wrote in a group text. "And you already know everyone's preferences. It'll be perfect." They didn't ask for a quote. Didn't treat me like a professional. They just assumed I'd do it. No one mentioned payment either. It was just sort of expected. I should have said no. I wanted to. But part of me, that old, bruised part that still wanted a place at the table, agreed. So I showed up. I planned the menu. I brought a team. I wore black, tied my hair back, and did what I do best. I worked. The party was beautiful. Every detail perfect. But what I remember most wasn't the food or the music. It was how invisible I felt. I heard someone ask Marcus, "Hey, who did you hire?" "This is great." And he waved vaguely in my direction and said, "Oh, just someone we know." Just someone we know. Not my sister. Not Lauren, who built this from the ground up. Just someone. Aunt Judy didn't even recognize me. "Oh, honey, could you grab me another rosé?" I didn't correct her. I nodded, smiled, and walked away. That was the moment I realized I wasn't family at this party. I was staff. Disposable, unremarkable. I stayed professional, served every course, cleared every plate, even smiled through the speeches. But as I was packing up, I overheard Marcus say something to his friend by the bar. "She never really did much with her life, but hey, at least she can cook." That sentence burned into my brain like a brand. I drove home with shaking hands, heart pounding, but oddly, calm. Something shifted in me that night. Not rage, not sadness, just clarity. They had no idea who I'd become, no idea what I'd built. And maybe, just maybe, it was time they found out. So I sent out an invitation. "To the entire Rivers family, you are cordially invited to a private evening at my home. Formal attire, dinner will be served." No details, no explanations. But if they thought I was just the caterer, they were about to learn who really owned the kitchen. The thing about catering your own family's party is that you're close enough to hear every cruel word, but never close enough to be part of the conversation. That night, I stood by the buffet table in my black uniform, refilling the garlic herb potatoes I'd roasted at 6 a.m., and watched my own family breeze by me like I wasn't even there. They didn't even try to fake it. One of my cousins leaned into Marcus, pointing toward me and whispered, not quietly enough, "Damn, she really stuck with the food thing, huh?" I thought that was a phase. Marcus just chuckled. You know, Lauren, always playing chef. Playing. Like the business I built from scratch, the 16-hour days, the commercial kitchen I finally leased. It was just some cute little hobby. I kept serving. I didn't let it show when Aunt Judy asked if I could pack up a few of those lemon tarts to take home, like I was her personal waitress. I didn't flinch when Marcus's wife, Madison, waved me over to adjust the candles because they didn't feel moody enough. But it got harder to swallow when I saw the reserved seats at the long family table, all labeled with little name cards. Every cousin, every spouse, even someone's new boyfriend who looked about 20. But no card for me, no chair for me. I stood there, holding a tray, while my whole bloodline toasted each other in a circle of warmth I was never invited into. I watched my parents raise their glasses to Marcus, again, for keeping the family legacy strong. What legacy? Dad was a used car dealer. Mom was a part-time bookkeeper. Marcus worked in middle management at a logistics firm. They acted like he was Rockefeller. Then Dad turned to Madison, laughed, and said, "And thank God for you. At least someone in this generation married smart." The way he said it, the look he gave me across the crowd, told me exactly what he meant. You didn't? You failed. You're not one of us. I stared at my hands, calloused from years of prep work, burned from hot pans, strong from lifting crates of produce week after week. These were the hands that built something. But to them, they were just hands meant to carry plates. I wanted to walk out. I wanted to throw the tray across the table and scream, "I'm not your help." But I didn't. I did something else. I made my way back to the van, pulled out the embossed white envelopes I'd had printed 3 days before, just in case. Inside each one was a card. Heavy stock, simple black font. You're invited to an exclusive dinner event hosted by Lauren Rivers, formal attire. Please arrive promptly at 7 p.m. Address enclosed. I walked back through the crowd and handed them out one by one. To Marcus, to Madison, to my parents, my aunts, uncles, cousins, even the boyfriend who didn't know my name. Some looked confused, some looked curious. No one said thank you. Marcus gave me a raised eyebrow. "What's this, a new promo gig?" I smiled. Something like that. I didn't owe them an explanation. They'd labeled me as the help, the extra, the girl who played chef, and they had no idea what I'd been building while they were too busy clapping for Marcus to look in my direction. They'd never asked where I lived, how my business was doing, or who I really was outside of my apron. So I invited them to see it with their own eyes. As I walked out that night, I passed by my dad, who was mid-laugh with one of the uncles. I stopped just long enough to hear him mutter, "Well, I guess at least she's useful for something." I didn't say a word. I just smiled and left. But the thing is, that house I invited them to, it's not a rental. It's not a client's place. It's mine. And in a few nights, they'd be standing on marble floors they didn't know I owned, staring at walls filled with framed awards they never thought I'd earn. They thought they were getting a free meal. They had no idea what they were walking into. I won't lie. Part of me wanted to cancel the whole thing. The night of the dinner came faster than I expected. The caterers I hired, yes, I hired caterers for once, were setting up in my backyard. The string lights were glowing. The custom floral arrangements I ordered were perfectly placed on every table. I had real linen napkins folded into fans, a 4-course menu printed on parchment, and a private jazz trio warming up in the corner. It looked like something out of a lifestyle magazine. And still, I stood upstairs staring at myself in the mirror, wondering if this was all a mistake. Would they come? Would they laugh in my face? Would they treat me like a fraud? Again? But when the first car pulled up, then the second, then 5 more right behind, the doubt faded. I watched from behind the curtain as they stepped out one by one, dressed to the nines like they were showing up for a charity gala. My mom even wore pearls. Madison, in some tight cocktail dress, was scanning the house like she was looking for the real host. Marcus had his usual smirk plastered on. No one knocked. They just assumed someone would greet them. So I did. I walked down the curved staircase in a navy silk dress and heels I hadn't worn in years. The air shifted the second I appeared. Conversation stopped. My mother blinked twice like she didn't recognize me. Then Madison, ever the one with fake warmth, clapped her hands. "Oh wow, Lauren. Whose place is this? You're catering for a senator now?" I smiled and tilted my head. "Nope, this one's mine." They laughed, awkwardly. Marcus looked around and said, "Wait, seriously? You live here?" That moment, that exact second, is hard to put into words. It was like the ground shifted beneath them. I didn't need to gloat. I didn't have to say anything else. The high ceilings, the custom art on the walls, the smell of truffle risotto drifting from the back patio, it all spoke for me. I motioned toward the dining area outside. "Dinner's being served. Please make yourselves comfortable." One by one, they filed out, confused, stunned, trying to piece together what the hell was happening. I watched them scan the place like detectives. I caught someone opening a cabinet when they thought I wasn't looking. Marcus couldn't sit still. "So, how'd this happen? Did you win the lottery?" "No," I said simply. "I worked." He didn't know what to do with that answer. At dinner, I made a small toast, nothing long, just a few words. "Thank you all for coming. Some of you didn't recognize me at your last party. Hopefully this setting will help refresh your memory." They chuckled nervously. My dad didn't laugh. He looked down at his plate. The tension was a live wire stretched across the table. As dessert was served, espresso panna cotta perfectly set, I handed out small gift boxes to everyone. No explanation, just a card inside with their name on it. They opened them in near unison. Inside each was a photo, taken discreetly during Marcus's anniversary party. Each one captured a different moment. Madison bossing me around, my mom ignoring me, Marcus waving me off. And on the back of each photo, a quote. A verbatim line they'd said that night, printed clearly. "At least she can cook. Don't dress up too much. You're staff. We'll put her in the back." Dead silence. My cousin dropped his fork. Madison's mouth opened slightly, but no words came. My dad reached into his box, read his own quote aloud. "She's useful, that's all." And didn't say another word. I sat back and watched it land. This wasn't revenge for the sake of revenge. This was clarity. I wanted them to see it, to feel it, to understand finally what it was like to be humiliated by people who are supposed to love you. And then to rise anyway. But just when I thought the night had peaked, Marcus stood up and said, "Okay, that's enough. This little show was cute, Lauren. But seriously, you're not better than us." I didn't flinch. I turned to him and said, "I never needed to be better. I just needed you to stop pretending I was nothing." He opened his mouth to fire back. But my assistant, Rachel, walked in from the back door, holding a folder. "Lauren, the deed transfer papers you asked for are ready to sign." Marcus went pale. "Wait, deed transfer? For what?" Rachel handed me the folder. I looked right at him. "For the lake house." You could hear a pin drop. Rachel handed me the folder and turned to leave like it was nothing. But everyone at that table knew exactly what the words deed transfer meant. Everyone except Marcus, who looked like someone had just unplugged him from reality. "What are you talking about?" he asked, forcing a laugh that didn't quite land. "What do you mean, the lake house?" I didn't answer right away. I took my time opening the folder, reviewing the pages, mostly for effect, but also because I wanted him to sit in it. In the silence, in the confusion, in the dread he didn't know he was supposed to feel yet. "Lauren," my dad cut in, his voice lower now, not demanding, just wary. "What's going on here?" I looked up at him. I bought it. Marcus scoffed. "You what?" "The lake house," I said calmly, "was listed quietly about 6 weeks ago. Bank records show it hadn't been paid on in 4 months. You were upside down on it, weren't you, Marcus?" He went red. Not just his face, but his neck, ears, and chest. He looked like a balloon about to pop. "You're out of your damn mind." But I wasn't. I'd seen the foreclosure notice through a friend in real estate. I didn't go looking for it. It found me. And something about that just stuck. Not because I wanted the property, but because that house had always been his symbol, his monument to success. Every family gathering since he bought it was held there. Every photo of my parents smiling. It was on that deck, with his lake in the background. I guess the universe handed me a chance to level the playing field, and I took it. I paid cash, I added. Well, technically through my LLC. You'll be getting the final papers next week. I just wanted to tell you in person, since you never read my emails. The color drained from his face. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. "You can't just take our family house," Madison snapped, her voice shaking. "That's where our children—" "You mean the one your name was never on?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. "It's not your house, Madison. It's barely his. Or wasn't." She stood up. "This is insane. You think just because you made a little money selling salad wraps and cupcakes?" I held up a hand. "Don't." The word hit like a punch. Quiet, cold, final. "You all laughed when I brought food," I said, turning to look at each one of them. "You laughed when I didn't have a place at the table. You laughed when I wasn't married, didn't wear heels, didn't talk about investments over cocktails. But I built something with my hands. With no help, no applause, no shortcuts." I looked at Marcus. "You called me a freeloader in front of your friends. Now you're about to pay me rent if you want to keep using that dock." His jaw dropped, but he didn't speak. My mom finally chimed in, her voice small. "Lauren, that's not what your father and I meant when we said—" "Don't," I said again. "You said plenty, you all did. And I let it slide for 39 years. The table went quiet again, but I wasn't done. "Here's the deal," I continued. "You can keep the house for the summer. I won't charge rent. Consider it. My last gift to the family." Everyone looked up. "But after Labor Day, I'm selling it. The property value's gone up. I'll turn a decent profit. And maybe then you'll stop measuring worth in square footage and last names." I stood up slowly, leaving the folder on the table in front of Marcus. "I didn't do this to humiliate you," I said. "I did it to remind myself that I could, that I never needed a seat at your table. I just needed to build my own." And with that, I walked back inside. I left them there, stunned, silent, small. But just before I disappeared behind the patio doors, I turned and said one last thing. "Oh, and Marcus, you might want to check your wife's texts." I hadn't planned to say that last line. It just came out. The second I mentioned Madison's texts, her face drained of all color. Marcus looked at her, confused, then suspicious. I didn't stick around. I let them sit in that silence, in that sudden shift of energy that had nothing to do with me anymore. I walked upstairs, away from the glass doors, away from the table where I'd been invisible for most of my life. And for the first time ever, I felt something settle in my chest that wasn't bitterness. It was peace. I don't know exactly what went down after I left them outside, but Rachel filled me in later. Madison had been texting one of Marcus's coworkers. Not just friendly messages, the kind that made it clear their Thursday lunch meetings weren't about spreadsheets. Rachel didn't dig. She didn't have to. The guy had posted a picture on his private Instagram 2 weeks ago. Madison was in the background, sipping wine across the table. Same dress she wore to that business trip in Phoenix. Marcus connected the dots quick, in front of everyone. They didn't yell. There were no chairs thrown or drinks spilled. But whatever crack I'd started with that deed transfer, the rest of the fault line split wide open right there at the dinner table. Marcus stormed off. Madison followed, trying to explain. My mom cried. My dad stayed quiet. The cousins? They didn't know where to look. The thing is, I didn't feel triumphant. Not in the cartoon villain way they probably expected. I wasn't trying to destroy anyone. I just refused to disappear anymore. They left my house in groups. No hugs, no goodbyes, just awkward shuffling and nervous glances. The next morning, I made myself coffee, barefoot in my kitchen, sunlight pouring through the windows. I didn't check my phone. I didn't open emails. I just stood there, breathing. It was the first time I didn't feel like I owed anyone anything. A few days later, Marcus emailed me. Short. Dry. Something like, "I won't contest the sale. Do what you want with the house." No apology. Just retreat. Madison's Instagram went private and silent. My parents haven't said much. Mom sent me a birthday card last month, the first one in 5 years. It didn't say much, just, "Hope you're doing okay. Love, Mom." And you know what? That's enough for now. I sold the lake house last week, made more than I expected. I donated part of the profit to a culinary scholarship for girls from families like mine. The ones who get told their dreams are cute, but not serious. I didn't do it to be noble. I did it because I know how it feels to have something inside you that no one sees, and how powerful it is when someone finally does. Here's the truth. Closure doesn't come wrapped in applause or perfect conversations. Sometimes it's just you, sitting in your own kitchen, knowing you didn't shrink yourself to make others comfortable, knowing you finally took up the space you always deserved. And if there's one thing I learned from all this, sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's peace, the kind you earn by choosing yourself, loudly, unapologetically, and without asking for permission. If this story reminded you of something you've been through or maybe still going through, I hope you'll share it in the comments. You never know who might need to hear it. And if you're still finding your voice, still building your table, I'm rooting for you. Thanks for sticking with me through all of this. And if you want to hear more stories like mine, real ones, you know where the subscribe button is. I'll be here, quietly but never small again.